Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I was just telling to this team just a short while back. I think the topic of lithium-ion battery safety couldn't have been more apt, more relevant than what it is today. So I am happy to share my perspectives, and of course we have a stellar panel of speakers. I am going to be talking from a practitioner's perspective. I'm not an academician. I'm not a battery chemical engineer or something. But I'm going to talk from a practitioner's perspective, and maybe bear with me for the next 8-10 minutes. Sort of try to cover a broad range of topic because I think this topic needs wider discussion as we sort of delve deeper. But I think the other speakers will take down some of these important aspects and then cover in more depth actually, right? So before I start, I thought it is pertinent to talk about SIGME, not as a plug, but to sort of give a perspective in terms of whatever that I'm going to talk about, to sort of give a perspective. We are an incubator from IIT Madras, and we deployed our first lithium-ion product in 2017. This is for the distributed energy storage system. Of course, our and we had been as a team, we had been working on the solar DC technologies for for quite some time now. Our one of our product also got the IEEE award as well, for solar DC and smart BMS technology. As part of a startup, we also raised some funding, and one of our renewable microgrid project got a Greater Good Award in the Microgrid Conference, in 2019 in San Diego. So far we have completed about 75 megawatt hour of energy storage, and we have also powered about 15,000 electric vehicles, with batteries. So the company is singularly focused on EV batteries and energy storage system. So whatever the topic that we are going to be talking about is absolutely relevant. This is something that we have been living and breathing for the last few years, and I am happy to share my my thoughts actually. So with that as a background, let me sort of go talk about. One second. Okay. Yeah. So lithium-ion battery is all about trade-offs, right? So today, lot of discussions which are happening in the market is about, hey, can I get extended range from my vehicle, right? Can you make sure that your batteries are charging faster, right? Can you give me extended life of the battery? Can you increase the energy density so that the battery is lighter, right, for the same capacity? And can you give me at a low cost? So a lot of discussions are happening around all of these parameters. But the parameter that takes a slightly backseat is in terms of safety, right? And we all know lithium-ion battery is all about trade-offs. You try to sort of optimize on one vector, you need to give away on some other vector, right? So that's the state of the technology today. Maybe it may change, maybe 3, 4, 5 years down the line. But today, I think the question that we need to ask is, hey, do we need, it's a trade-off between what I call it as a boring, but a safe battery versus a lively, also a dangerous battery, right? So the whole discussion is going to be in some which way, revolving around this thread of trade-offs. I thought I will start off with that and then sort of build this conversation forward. Uh, this is I think battery 101. There is we all know that for the last 100 years this hasn't changed. You have a cathode, you have an anode, you have a separator and an electrolyte, and then the ions move for charging and discharging. What is critical for lithium-ion battery is they are like humans. Somebody was asking, can you tell me, does your battery work at 50 degrees Celsius? The answer is, if we humans are comfortable at 50, the battery also would be comfortable. That is one simple analogy that we can take it. In terms of we are generally comfortable between this 25 to 35 degrees Celsius, and lithium-ion battery is also very similar, right? But the three key takeaways from this slide is one, the battery safety inherently starts from the cell chemistry, right? There are some cell chemistries which are more safer. Some of them are less safer, but gives you higher energy density and so on. There are other speakers who are going to be talking about it in in more depth. The second one is the same battery pack, depending on the location that where it is getting used, the performance will vary, right? Depending on if one is using in the hot climate of maybe Rajasthan, or cold regions of maybe Leh, Ladakh, or more temperate regions of Bangalore and so on, your battery performance varies. And the third part is anytime you have an energy storage device and you store and retrieve the power from there, there is a current flow which is associated, and anytime there is a current flow, there is a heat associated with that. So the heat removal or the thermal management is very important aspect of this. Of course, Dr. Desikan is going to be covering this in more detail. But the critical aspect of battery safety, other than the battery chemistry itself, is going to be the thermal, electrical, and mechanical management, right? So the next few slides we will talk about it in more detail. Um, uh, again, this is the only academic slide that I have got. This by far the best slide that I could sort of see in terms of what could happen under an unsafe condition. So what do we mean by an unsafe battery? That can happen due to, again, three reasons, right? One, if there is a mechanical abuse, right? There is a there is an accident, right? Or there is a crash, or somebody had dropped the battery, dropped the battery, or if there is a penetration of some sort into the battery and so on. All of them result in internal short circuit, right? You have a cathode and anode. In some which way, if there is going to be a mechanical abuse, you end up in some which way shorting it. The moment that happens, then as you can imagine, the all hell breaks loose, as they call, right? You have a separator meltdown, you have a cathode breakdown and so on. The other aspect of the abuse is, one is electrical abuse, right? This, I cannot stress the importance of this today. Lot of these battery packs, they are designed to operate under a certain condition. If you end up overcharging it, right? You charge it more than what the battery can take, or you charge it with a current that is not designed, the battery packs are not designed, or you accidentally short the terminals of the battery pack. All of them would result in an electrical abuse condition. Similarly, the other one could happen is the thermal abuse, right? So as we talked about, anytime there is a current flow, there is a heat associated with that. And if the heat is not properly removed from the battery pack, you are going to result in internal overheating. Anytime when this electrical or a thermal abuse condition happens, again, what happens inside the battery is your SEI layer decomposes, right? Your solid electrolyte interface layer. And then what happens is, you have this electrolyte decomposition that happens. It gradually builds on. Once that happens, then you have this gas evolution. You have the safety valves or the vents, that cracks, and the thermal hotspots. There could be a fire, and that results in a condition called thermal runaway, right? I think Priyakshi talked about it. We have been seeing this in the news for all the wrong reasons, actually, right? And clearly this is something. This is something. As long as you have an electrochemical device, this is something that is bound to happen, because you're storing energy. Now the question is, how do you make sure that you can design it which is more safer, which is what we are going to talk about it in the next few slides or so. Again, slightly more details about this thermal runaway. I have taken a cylindrical cell here. Again, you have a cathode, anode, separator, and a liquid electrolyte. Anytime you have an overcharge condition, or there is a cell crush condition, or there is a flaw in the separator and so on, that's going to result in a big current, right? What we have seen. The moment that big current flows, it's sort of, there is a negative this thing that happens, right? So what happens is, once it happens, the separator starts, decomposing, melting, and so on, and you are exposing your anode. The moment that happens, they sort of starts decomposing. If you look at it, so that forms this vicious cycle, right? You have, you already have the heat inside this battery pack. You also have a fuel, in terms of electrolyte, and also the oxygen is also inside. So which means that it becomes an irreversible reaction, where your liquid electrolyte gets into this combustion mode, which results in this huge fires and explosions and so on and so forth. What we had seen, of course, every evolution stage you would see that, until very recently we talked about Hyundai Kona, or very recently Chevy Bolt fire and so on and so forth. Predominantly, they can be addressed, if we are sort of key about the thermal, mechanical, and the electrical part of it. So the key thing is, uh, I cannot stress the importance of thermal management here. Right? For example, if you see this simulation, it talks about an ambient temperature of 45 degrees, and then you are sort of doing this thermal simulation at the continuous charge and discharge current. You can actually sort of, to a very great extent, accurately measure what would be the temperature increase, right, based on the particular design. And as long as this increase in temperature is within the acceptable limit, then your battery pack is safe. But this is something that many a times it gets missed out, and then you find that saying in the field saying that there is a thermal condition that has not been accounted for. The other thing is the mechanical part of it, right? So today, for example, if there is a shock or a vibration, there is going to be resulting in the deviation in the mechanical structure. Now, how much of this deviation can that happen, and is the pack designed for such deviation? Again, these are all extremely good tools are available. These are all problems that has been already sort of solved, by others. All we need to do is that we make sure that they are followed. And of course, the electrical condition, right? The bus bars, the interconnections, the local hotspots that happen if the bus bar thickness is not proper or the bus bar width is not proper. All of them, it would not show up at the initial condition, but it sort of shows up, over, as you sort of, go through few hundreds of cycles and so on. And by the time you find out, it becomes too late, right? So that's why I think it's important to sort of make sure that it is, designed by construction right, actually, right? So, and the role of BMS, the battery management system, this is one area where India needs a lot of focus and attention, because today, unfortunately, as had happened with the solar and so on, you have a lot of dumping of both BMS, which are sort of imported protection boards, as well as low quality cells, right? So today that results in two things. One, these protection boards are very rigid. They do not have multiple means of measuring the temperatures from the battery pack. Their upper cutoff and lower cutoff are fixed. So which means that it does not take into account the dynamism of the battery pack itself. Leaving that aside, assuming that we don't use that, I think the other next option would be using a good BMS, which not only does the basic monitoring, accurate measurement, but also making sure that all the estimations are done well, be it state of charge or state of power or state of health and so on. The very important thing is cell balancing, which anyway I'll talk about it in the next slide. But the BMS is also evolving, right? The future technologies of BMS is talking about state of safety. They are talking about how do you isolate, a module in case of a fault. How do you make sure that the BMS thermally protects these battery packs? How do you include a state of function and so on? These are all happening on the hardware front, okay? But there is also a huge bunch of research work which is going on the platform or on the cloud side, where the entire battery is getting modeled onto the digital platform, and there are tools which not only models that but also compares real-time data from the actual battery pack, and make sure that there are dynamically sort of, these are all modified so that the safety of the battery packs are maintained, the digital twins as they call it. Huge topic, lot of discussions, but I think this is to sort of delve deeper into that, maybe may need maybe in another webinar. I would request maybe EV reporter team to take a look at it, but this is something that is a extremely good quality work is being done all over the world, and I think India is in a great position to sort of add more and then do a great work here. Yeah, so talking about the safety, in terms of safety, as I was telling, one is a cell selection. Today, that LFP cells are inherently more safer than other chemistry, but they also have relatively lower energy density, right? So that is these kind of, the trade-offs is something which is important, but the safety starts from the cell selection. Of course, we talked about the thermal management. Traditional two-wheelers and three-wheelers are predominantly air-cooled, or sometimes they have thermal pads and phase change materials. But the higher capacity battery packs have a liquid cooling. They also have pressure valves to make sure that the gases can be let out in case of pressure buildup and so on. The most important thing is the cell balancing part of it, right? So today, as cells are like humans, right? I go back to the same analogy. No two cells are the same, right? Some cells, may be inherently weak. So if you go through this charge discharge cycle, it's possible that the weak cell will get to become weaker, right? Unless they are balanced properly. Balancing is absolutely critical, where many of the BMSs, the low cost BMSs do not do that effectively, and that could be one of the reason why there are failures on the field, 1, 2, 3 months after the battery packs is deployed. Again, there are two types, but predominantly the passive balancing used, the active equalization used, which requires additional circuitry, for a larger capacity battery pack. We talked about the BMS in the previous slide. BMS again is super critical because the first level of protection other than cell happens at the BMS level. There is also a lot of work which is going on advanced materials. Companies like 3M, companies like Saint Gobain, they are having this thermal gap fillers, right? So that the gaps are effectively filled. There are liquid gasketing from 3M, metal pre-treatments, thermal pads, battery assembly adhesives, and so on and so forth. That's on the material front. There is also a lot of new electronic products happening as well. Semiconductor switches, electronic fuses, which are higher efficiency and also provides a faster response and increased safety as well. Some of the large capacity battery pack also has a fire suppression enablement as well. Making sure that in case of fire, the fires are let out in a different direction than the direction where the drivers or passengers are there, and they also have outlets through which one can purge, send the the fire suppression fluids, so that it can go and attack the cell directly, right, rather than doing it from a top down kind of approach. Quite a bit of work, very very exciting in terms of the kind of work that are being done in this area. Cell technologies, I'll not talk more about this because there are other speakers who are going to talk. The only thing that is happening is you see this variance of NMC. Today there is a need for us to reduce the C, the cobalt, mainly from environmental perspective, right? The mining is happening in unsafe conditions and so on. But as you go through this NMC's variance, your energy density increases, but the safety is somewhat compromised as well. That is a lot of work which is going on as to how do you increase the safety. But another, there is a resurgence of the LFP chemistry itself. CATL came up with their LFP very recently, which is cell to pack kind of technology, and there is also work going on in silicon anodes, right? The lithium anodes, and of course there is a work on solid state batteries which removes this liquid electrolytes. Apparently that is much more safer, but all of them, we are, in my opinion, we are about 4 or 5 years away before they can see a large scale commercialization. Yeah, so this particular slide, charges. See, when we talk about battery safety, many a times chargers take a backseat, right? But the most important thing that we need to keep in mind is chargers and battery safety go in hand. Today, if the chargers can have a very very different current profile depending on the grid fluctuations. For those of us in India, we know that there is the grid fluctuations in for rural UP or in rural Bihar. The charging current profile varies significantly. Though in terms of what the specifications are talking about, and also there are no standardization for the smaller capacity chargers. Right, most of the chargers do not even have a communication port. So the chargers and battery pack don't talk to each other. The chargers sometimes overcharges the battery, or sometimes does not take into account the various battery parameters, temperatures and so on and so forth. It's absolutely critical to have this communication port between the battery and the charger. So today, as we see some of the safety concerns in the battery, the chargers play a very significant role. And of course, from the battery safety itself, the temperature, plays a very vital role, along with the state of charge, the current, and other, factors such as humidity and lack of cell balancing and so on and so forth. Broadly, I think this is on the chargers. The one last thing I want to sort of leave away with is that today this is the data that Tesla has shared. This is the data which is publicly available. They have basically shared the EV fire incident over a period of 8-9 years, right? And that this data is available online. The amazing thing is EVs are safer than ICE engine. So this is one point that I want to leave all of us with. So what it sees here is, for the EV, if you were to sort of see the fire register, for every 205 million miles, you have one fire registered for EV, as against 19 million miles for the case of ICE engine. So there is an order of magnitude difference in terms of safety. Agreed that that one singular fire incident can be very catastrophic and be very impactful, but the number of fire incidents itself is much lower, right? Sometimes in the scheme of things, that gets missed out. The second thing is, I think I go back to the very first slide. Our goal must be 100% safety, right? All other parameters, right? Higher energy density, higher cycle life, all the other parameters, they can all take a backseat. The first and foremost should be the safety as a main one, and then you design on the rest of the parameters. And the third one is, again, when we are doing the battery design, mostly we are designing with the beginning of life, right? Homologation, we get it done with the beginning of life. But from a safety perspective, the battery should be designed with end of life safety. I think this should be our overarching principle, actually, right? So broadly, I think these are all the thoughts that I wanted to leave it, and I am very happy to take with the questions during the Q&A session. And my contact details are here, and looking forward to a lively discussion. Over to you, Priyakshi.